Welcome. We have some top shelf chopping and sawing action for you today, the 2021 STIHL Timbersports U.S. Qualifiers, the road to the national championship. Tommy Sanders here with Kevin Holson. Hey, we're down to 8 guys out of our original 40 to look for those 5 spots in the national championship. We had to eliminate Mike Esch and Darrell Weekland after the first 3 disciplines. We got 3 more disciplines that are anything but easy coming up today.
Yeah, and a bit of a points mix-up with this. Guys like Walt Page not sitting where I thought they were going to be sitting. We need to see him kick it into gear. Trevor Beaudry doing very well for himself. So there's a lot of mixing around in this points battle. Some really tough Pool D action.
All right, we'll get started with our first 3 disciplines right now. Let's take a look at how our 3-round competition is scored. In round 1, our 10 competitors will compete in 3 events: the underhand, the stock saw, and the standing block. Then only our top 8 advance after that round into round 2. In this round, they'll compete in the single buck and the springboard. The 6 athletes with the most points after round 2 advance to the final round. The remaining field of 6 survivors will compete in the hot zone. This unpredictable event will be the final competition to decide who moves on to the semifinal round, which certainly ratchets up the stress of making 3 complete and clean cuts within the allowed distance. So let's get started on this next segment of our journey to find the U.S. champion for 2021. This year's pool rounds are conducted in 4 different locations around the country in virtual matchups. Each contestant lays down their best time in each discipline against a competitor on a different stage in another part of the country. Let's continue our Pool B competition with round 2. We'll get it started with the single buck. Let's get ready to go with our second round. This elimination round consists of 2 disciplines, the single buck and the springboard. After that, we will lose 2 more of our hopefuls here, our 10 that we started with. First heat, Walt Page of California versus Missouri's Aaron Hovis.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, I can't even tell you about the trouble with Walt Page at the top of this cut, and more trouble happens. This is just a disaster reel for Walt Page. Aaron Hovis, though, melting down through that log, has to put in just a half of a pole stroke to finish it off. I don't know if that's a different salt for Walt Page, but it was not a good matchup between operator saw and block.
Yeah, big disappointment for Walt, 19.45. Aaron Hovis time, 14.87. Heat number 2, the single buck. That's Thomas Lancaster of Vermont on the left, and the legend, Mel Lentz, the king of the lumberjacks, on the right.
3, 2, 1, go!
Mel Lentz getting a little bit of help from who Dave Jewett refers to as the Duke. Jason Lentz's son. Solid run going for both these guys. Big long noodles from Tom Lancaster. It is going to be Lancaster just ahead of Mel Lentz. Lancaster bringing some serious pace to this cut and still managing to stretch out, run that entire saw. There's a little bit left there. There's a little bit of room to smooth things out. You get that awkward half stroke at the bottom. You think it's going to go. You got to do a little quick pull stroke, but he drove off cleanly through the push stroke on that.
No, yeah, it was a solid run. I'm running a different saw. A little hungry than I thought, but overall, yeah, it was a good cut. I didn't hang out, so it's smooth as fast.
Mel Lentz's time of 14.87, Thomas Lancaster 14.53. Josh Wilson cutting in North Carolina. Virtual heat against David Green, doing his sawing in Washington today.
Josh Wilson, right from the go, has been impressive in this single buck event. I think it's one of his favorite events. David Green really putting up an impressive cut as well. Wilson down in the low 12s. He's going to do himself a whole lot of good in terms of overall points. Now, sometimes in the single buck event, boring is fast. Just getting the job done, smooth, consistent, even strokes of the saw will get you a solid time. Josh Wilson proves that, looking like an effortless run in the low 12s.
I did, my front foot slipped on the first push, but after I recovered, it was fine, so I'm happy with it. So nothing wrong with it.
Josh Wilson's time, 12.22, time to beat in the single buck. This is going to be Nate Hodges cruising along on points here in top spot. Trevor Beaudry having a good day as well.
3, 1, go!
We gotta remember, this is essentially the sophomore album for the Nate Hodges band right now. 2019, he came out in his rookie year and just stunned us all, and he is following up with a great performance here in the initial rounds of the STIHL Timbersports 2021 edition.
A time of 12.20, so by 2/100ths of a second, Nate Hodges beats out Josh Wilson for top points in the single buck. Trevor Beaudry's time, 14.17. And there's our overall points with one discipline remaining. Lancaster and Lentz sitting on the bubble. They need to lay down some fast times in our final discipline of round 2, the always daunting Springboard. STIHL Timbersports is sponsored by STIHL, maker of a full line of gasoline and battery-powered handheld outdoor power equipment. Find yours at stihlusa.com. By the Duluth Trading Company, the official workwear of STIHL Timbersports. By Ace Hardware. Ace is the helpful place. And by John Deere. Nothing runs like a deer. Centralia, Washington, one of the 4 locations hosting competitors for our first ever virtual competition. We have athletes competing from around the country vying for one of the 20 spots in the 2021 STIHL Timbersports U.S. Championship semifinals. We are halfway through our round 2, or our knockout rounds, and there's our overall points with one discipline remaining. Lancaster and Lentz are sitting on the bubble. They need to lay down some fast times in our final discipline of round 2, the always daunting Springboard. To tell us more about the Springboard chop, here's Dave Jewett in our discipline review.
The Springboard chop, using your axe and 2 boards to ascend a 9-foot pole standing 8 feet in the air to sever a 10.5-inch block. How do you get to the block, though? You have to look at this event in steps. Step 1, chop a bottom pocket. That first pocket is going to be 4 to 6 hits. You will be inserting a board into that pocket. Then you will jump on that board to chop a second pocket. That second pocket will be made in 4 to 6 hits to insert a second board. Jump up, get to the back of the board. That's where you will use every muscle in your body to chop 80 to 90% of the way through the front side of that block. Then you will turn to the back side. You have 2 choices, chopping up and down, removing the chip, or the new school style of hard downward slices.
First heat of the Springboard chop.
3, 2,
This is going to be Aaron Hovis versus Josh Wilson.
Well, and Aaron Hovis, I feel like the past couple of disciplines, he's had his rally cap on, looking to grab more overall points, and he's looking strong here up on that first board ahead of Josh Wilson. He's not liking it so much, though. He kind of double clutched his first hit on the second pocket and has inched himself about as close to the pole as you can. It really throws off your swing, that muscle memory that you've trained so hard for, and now you're 2 feet closer to the pole. Everything's different.
Aaron Hovis in somewhat shaky position with regards to the points totals as well. He's going to have to step up the pace if he wants to avoid elimination after the end of the Springboard.
He and Josh both up on that second board about the same amount of time. Aaron, though, is putting in a round of hits with not much to show for it. I'm not sure if he's just got less than ideal axe placement now that he seems to be through the crust on that lollipop. He's in the soft candy center here now. We're seeing some nice slabs of wood release. Josh Wilson, though, he's around the back. There it is for Josh Wilson. All downward slashing motions. He does span them out a little bit, top and bottom, to open up a slot, release a chip.
There's Aaron Hovis with a time that's going to disappoint him, 1:26.90. Josh Wilson's time, 1:13.94.
Yeah, Springboard's always toughest event, but my top pocket wasn't the best. Couldn't get on the board the best I wanted to, so took a little bit extra work, but it's not a bad cut. I'm happy with it, so we'll see how it goes.
Heat number 2 of the Springboard, Mel Lentz versus David Green, and Mel Lentz has been kept out of the top 5, sometimes just barely, too many times today. He needs to put down a really good time in the Springboard. To avoid elimination.
There you see both these guys, that characteristic flick the heel of the axe, get that chip cleaned out. Even the smallest chip in the back of that hole, if it gets on top of that springboard shoe, you will take an elevator ride into the ground in a hurry. Mel Lentz unofficially just finished his 1/1,000,000th springboard pocket. You can fact check me on that one, but I don't think the data exists. I'm just speculating. Clean climb for Mel Lentz. He's got to get that axe moving. David Green wading deep into the front side of this block, also with a solid board set. Mel reaching way around to the far side of that block. Looks like a good, clean front face. Got to come up a little bit higher on that backside. Green not even bothering to turn his feet, looking to slash off that block. I see a wiggle from Green. Oh, both these guys, hang on, Mel. Both of these guys nearly synchronized finishes. Go back and watch the end of this chop for both Mel and David. These guys find themselves in similar sticky situations at the end of the chop. They're slashing through, looking for those last fibers, and sometimes the point of the heel of the axe will hang in the block. Takes Mel for a ride. He holds on for dear life. David says, I'll hand you the whole thing there, Rich.
Springboard, yeah. Went better than I thought it would go. Yeah, it did good. Yeah, I was happy with that climb. So, hopefully it was good enough to beat a few of them boys. That's the big thing. It's a challenge, you know. It's not good for the boys that I beat because they got a long way to go. So, it's satisfying. You know, I love the sport. You know, and it's just awesome to be able to compete yet.
So David Green, a time of 1:06.24, the new time to beat. And Mel Lentz, 1:06.71. Unbelievable, phenomenal for a 62-year-old to be 7 seconds away from a 1-minute springboard cut. Well, here we go, the battle for New England bragging rights in the springboard chop. Vermont's Thomas Lancaster, sometimes speed climbing expert or professional, versus Trevor Beaudry of New Hampshire.
Lancaster on his backswing had to pump the brakes there a little bit. He was already ready to go into his front swing before the go signal. Gets himself held up. Trevor Beaudry, significant slope on that first board. It's clearly not going to go anywhere, but also puts you in sort of an odd body position. Here's the one that counts for both these competitors. Want to see just a tiny bit of upslope, nice, flat, even, consistent. They are both going to town. They are punching the clock, and they're going to rip the top of these blocks off. Lancaster got to the backside of that block in a hurry. I don't know if that was preemptive. It looks like a really soft piece of wood. He's got a fiber back there. He finds it. Tom Lancaster doing himself a whole lot of good in terms of points.
There you go, Trevor Beaudry and his official time, 1:11.85. Thomas Lancaster, right, Kevin, he may have well secured his spot in the final discipline of the day, the hot saw.
Tom Lancaster, again, doing himself a whole lot of good, coming in under 1 minute, our first competitor in this pool to break that 1 minute barrier in the springboard. Remember, these guys are knocking off rust and dust. This is not an easy discipline to train. It takes a lot of wood, a lot of space to be able to set yourself up a springboard and make some consistent cuts. So most of these guys at best are practicing pockets in a standing block stand and hoping it translates here for the big day.
I put a lot more hits in the pockets than I wanted to, but I kept the axe moving, and I don't know. I think I got up there and chopped the block well, so best I can do.
Final heat of the springboard chop. This is going to feature Nate Hodges, our points leader right now, going up against Walt Page, two very keen springboard performers here. In fact, Nate Hodges, the last time the U.S. championships were contested, he set the national record.
Yeah, the guy's swinging a snow shovel in this springboard event. Oh, drew a bit of a slab in the bottom of this pole, or the bottom of the pocket. 4 hits, though, he's going to be up and in. I hope that holds well for him. I did see one of his first downward blows that the bottom of the pocket split out. That tape and bark seems like it's holding, though. Walt Page right on his heels. And again, Nate Hodges just swinging a monster of an axe. Decides to thump one more in the front. He and Walt around together. I think Walt's got a lot of work done. Hodges is frantically slashing this off, but not fast enough. Walt Page is going to take the win. Well, when two of the best springboard cutters in the country go head-to-head, times fall. Unbelievable runs, tremendous runs from both these guys. Yeah, we can sit back and we critique and we can find out the fault that would have made these record caliber runs, but nonetheless, exceptional cuts.
You know, I actually felt good. Everything was going right, but there's so many little moving parts there, like that bottom board hole, the chip didn't want to clear out. So I had to stab a couple more in there. Top board hole went pretty good, and then it was a great piece of wood. So it was good, definitely not like a record like I could have, but the potential was there with the wood.
What a great springboard race. That one was worth waiting for. And Walt Page will take it with a time of 46.41. And that performance is our John Deere power play. Nothing runs like a deer.
He and Walt around together. I think Walt's got a lot of work done. Hodges is frantically slashing this off, but not fast enough. Walt Page is going to take the win.
You get those nice blocks. It was a really nice piece of wood like that, and that, yeah, it was fun to chop. Felt good. Struggled with the pockets. I definitely could have cleaned that up a bit.
Well, there you have it. Walt Page takes the final discipline in round 2 with a time of 46.41. And the U.S. Springboard record holder, Nate Hodges, is right behind him with a time of 47.80. Now we move on to round 3, the final discipline of competition, the hot saw. And as we do, we have to lose 2 of our athletes, Mel Lentz and Aaron Hovis. Now our 6 remaining competitors battle it out for the final 5 spots in the STIHL Timbersports semifinals. But first, these athletes dedicate immense hours to training for these events, but many still find time to serve their community. Let's find out in the Ace Hardware Helpful Profile.
How I got started in the sport was a small lumberjack competition in my town. So every year, it's my goal to give back, you know, and the whole reason that lumberjack competition exists in North Fork, where I live, is to help out the small children doing swimming programs, lunch programs in the summer. So you bet I'm there donating, giving back, and I love it. Just like Ace Hardware, I love getting involved and giving back to the community. I think that's very, very important.
Cherry Valley, New York, one of the 4 locations hosting competitors for our first ever virtual competition. We have athletes competing from around the country vying for one of the 20 spots in the 2021 STIHL Timbersports U.S. Championship semifinals. Now, we're headed into our final round of elimination. Only 6 athletes remain, but only 5 will move on to the semifinals. And standing before these athletes is the most unpredictable event of the competition, the hot saw. Here's Dave Jewett, Duluth Trading's Discipline Review. Well, here we go with our final discipline of the day. We are down to 6 athletes in this, and only 5 will advance. This is the aspect of the sport that's the closest to bull riding, I think, that you could ever find, in that you don't know exactly what you're going to get. This is going to be Trevor Beaudry versus Josh Wilson.
Yeah, this is bull riding meets top fuel dragster meets base jumping meet. Hot saw is a diabolical event. These are non-stock chainsaws. These are machines that were never intended to have a guide bar and chain on them whatsoever. So you never know what you're going to get.
The absolute definition of a non-spec type race.
Oh, yeah.
This is anything goes. It is absolutely unlimited.
1, go!
Synchronized sawing, but in the end, Trevor Beaudry is going to come out with a win. Both these guys just a slight lift in the throttle in between cuts.
Trevor Beaudry just a handful of hundredths of a second faster than Josh Wilson at 6.71, 6.95 for Wilson.
Last discipline of the day, highest propensity for disaster. You want to cut out, you want to cut over the line, don't want to have a mechanical failure, you don't want to throw a chain. Both these guys get the job done in its most simplest form, 3 cuts on the deck.
I've been working on a new motor and it's running, but I broke the rear handle off from it 2 days ago. And so I had to break out the old motor, but it's still running good. So we may not see it if I make it through to Little Rock. Maybe a new motor.
Well, with that cut of 6.71, maybe we will see Trevor Beaudry in our semifinals. We'll have 2 heats remaining to find out. STIHL Timbersports is sponsored by STIHL, maker of a full line of gasoline and battery-powered handheld outdoor power equipment. Find yours at stihlusa.com. By the Duluth Trading Company, the official workwear of STIHL Timbersports. By Ace Hardware. Ace is the helpful place. And by John Deere. Nothing runs like a deer. We are down to the very end of our Pool D competition. 6 athletes remain, but only 5 will move on. Taking a look at our hot saw leaderboard, 2 athletes have posted times, and now we're ready for our final 2 heats. Well, the time to beat Trevor Beaudry, 6.71 seconds. Here's a couple of guys capable of going very, very low on time, though. A West Coast affair between David Green of Oregon, Nate Hodges of California.
Oh, trouble on stand 2 and on stand 1. Hodges getting a little bit reckless on the start. Oh, where do we go with this? Everybody just take a breath. Everybody calm down and we'll unpack this for you. Holy cow, disaster on both sides of the screen. You see David Green slow at the top, clearly an issue. The saw did not want to rev up. It took him a while to get up and running, and then he lays down a tabletop, a monster slab of a second cut. Saw him shuffle his feet around. That left him little real estate for his third cut. You can read a newspaper through that third cut. Well, fair is fair. We've got to take a look over on the second side of your screen. On the right side, Nate Hodges comes up to the top of the block, misses at the start, catches the top, then he cuts out of the side, didn't really have a third cut, then he tries to go back and get a third cut, but the rules say that you've got to make 2 down cuts and 1 up cut, so he started to make a second up cut, but realized it and went ahead and made a second down cut. Now he's looking at everything on the stage going, oh, there's got to be 3 good ones there somewhere.
Well, amazingly, through all those mishaps, they both have 3 complete discs. David Green posting a time of 12.90, Nate Hodges 13.90. Time to beat Trevor Beaudry 6.71. Our final heat of the hot saw. Walt Page going up against Thomas Lancaster. Thomas coming into the hot saw, the lowest position in points. Definitely going to need to lay down a big cut here.
The number of people that I would feel good about relying on the hot saw to advance. It's not that kind of discipline where you're like, yep, good, hot saw.
There was only one Mr. Automatic, and I don't even think he was Mr. Automatic all the time.
Oh, yeah, I mean, hot saw Harry Burnsworth,
yep.
Mike Sullivan, there's a very limited number of people out there. And with no disrespect to Mr. Lancaster,
no.
This is not the discipline you want to have to lean on in this moment.
3, 2, 1, go!
Case in point, let's watch Walt Page in his run. Or let's not Walt. Oh, my gosh.
Holy cow. Now, he's got 60 seconds from the go point.
Tom finds fire in that saw. He'll probably get... No,
this
never
is
mind.
not working.
I haven't run a hot saw in years. And Tommy, my hands are sweaty right now. Like this, I've lived this. I still wake up once in a while. Throwing my pillow across the room, thinking it's a ripcord. So I think Walt gets a time. I
Yeah,
think
there we
that's
go.
Under
That's
60
the
seconds.
third disc. If it looks good, if it's complete.
I think we're going to hear the whistle on Tom. Yeah, there's the whistle for Tom.
Time's up for Thomas Lancaster. An automatic DQ right there. Let's see what the verdict is on Walt Page. Yeah, it's good. 50.73 for Walt Page. Thomas Lancaster, the lone hot saw competitor who will not advance. There you have it. Our list of 20 semifinal athletes is complete. We now split them into 2 pools of 10, and only 6 athletes from each pool will advance to the STIHL Timbersports finals. We'll see you next time, where we'll begin our STIHL Timbersports women's competition. These athletes will battle it out to see who can make it to the championship.